Brittany, I am so excited to have you here. I have to tell you, I have been following you on Instagram for a while and I love your content. And I know we're not talking about Instagram today, but I can't wait to have this conversation with you and just learn everything I could possibly learn from you. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
This is going to be great. So I know we're talking about LinkedIn, even though we connected on Instagram, that's
Yep.
okay because you really use Instagram and LinkedIn as a tool to really grow your business. And
Mhm.
before we dig into the how do you do that? How do you make it happen? Let's start with you. How in the world did you get into digital marketing, social media marketing? Like what landed you here?
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. So I am in my fifth year of business, which is incredibly exciting. And I will say I'm so proud of myself because that 5 years, what is the stat? Is it only how many?
Yeah.
Only I forget.
I
Like
don't
10.
remember either, but not many people make it to that point.
Yeah. Like my business and officially said, I have a business now. I was like, I just need to make it to the 5 years. And then we've made it.
Yes.
And I'm like, my business has evolved and changed so much from when I first started. But a little bit of a background. When I was in corporate, my background is marketing. So I went to school for marketing. And I will say, even though I went to school for marketing, I look younger than I am. We were not taught social media. It was not a thing.
Okay.
When you were like, when I would be hired at a company, they were like, "Oh, she's the young girl in the office. We'll get her to do the social media," which
Uh,
unfortunately is a thing that still happens. But I'm like, what they're doing. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, yeah, I'm great at posting for fun for my personal life, but that's very different than doing it for a business. Um, but yes, I was in corporate, in marketing, doing all of the things and wearing all of the hats. But I never felt like this was something I wanted to do. I don't know, just working in corporate just didn't feel right for me. And I also didn't know how to quit my job and do something different. I didn't know what that looked like. The only thing I knew was I had a goal with my partner, Bryce, to go and travel the world. And so him and I put a plan in place that instead of the money we would use for a wedding, we would use it for an 8-month adventure around the world as our commitment to one each another. So we ended up doing that at the beginning of 2019 in January. And during that time, while we were traveling, I had a few friends who were like, "Can you help me with social media?" Sure. Time I'm traveling. And I was charging them $50 a month. Like, you guys, it was bad. I didn't know what I clearly was not in the mindset of a business owner. After Bryce and I traveled for about 8 months and we came back and it was time to start looking for a job, I just had this sinking feeling in my stomach. And I was like, what? Like, would more people pay me to help them with their social media? And so I just did it as an experiment. I was like, well, let's just see what happens. If it doesn't work out, I can always just go and get another job. And it turned out people do need to hire someone for social media management. And it was something that I was able to start to grow my business in. And so I really started offering social media management services to a wide array of clients, kind of testing out the ground, working with everyone and anyone until I started to kind of figure out more so what type of clients do I like to work with, and the industries I like to support. And so it was probably about 2 years of social media management that I was doing. And in 2021 is when I started working or getting on calls with people who would say, "Hey, I can't afford your private social media management services, but I would love to learn how to do it for my business." And so that's where social media coaching at the time, I called it, started. And I offered a group program, which was super fun, called the Soulful Content Collective. I would do private one-on-one coaching for solopreneurs and small business owners. And then over the years, it kind of started to evolve. And an opportunity came up where a company reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you help train one of our internal team members." And that completely changed everything for me for who my target audience was going to be moving forward for my private social media and marketing consulting. And there's a different energy when you are training someone who is a paid employee to actually execute on everything compared to a very busy business owner who's trying to manage all of the hats and do all of the areas and things in their business. And so I still work with solopreneurs and small business owners, but in a different capacity. But now my main services around social media and marketing consulting with companies and brands, as well as speaking, has become a bigger part of my business. And that's kind of how my business has evolved. That's like the quick
Oh my
snip note
gosh.
or quick
Oh my
note on
God.
this.
I think your story is so relatable. First off, I think both of our stories align in so many different areas with that. So, yes, absolutely. I think people get it. And I love what you said in the very beginning about, you got out of school, your degree was in marketing, and the company you're working for just assumed that you understood social media marketing. And that even today, there are businesses that are like, oh, well, that person's young or that person is doing that. So they can handle the social media. They have no idea what goes into it. And it's so different. Even, and you kind of said this, like you said, how you did your own and it was fun, right? But doing it for another business is so different. And I see that happening over and over and over again, where it's like, I can be a social media manager because I have a really big following on my own page. And you can,
Yeah.
but it's going to take some more training and learning,
Hey, yes.
beyond just what you post yourself.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I will say, when I started on my own, I was doing social media management for about, I would say like 7 to 8 months. And then I was like, I need to invest in a course
uh,
for social media managers specifically. And when I went through that, it did two things. It one confirmed either the things I was doing right. I was like, perfect. Okay, good. I feel better about this that I'm doing. But the other thing it brought to light things I didn't know I needed to know when it came to like systems and processes and ways I could be way more efficient with my clients or certain strategies to implement. And so that gave me the moment where I was like, oh, just throwing anyone into social media. No, there's so much more. And like, as I've gotten even more into it, I'm like, there is so much more. Like, this is a 1% full-time job.
it
Um,
absolutely is.
yes.
Yes, it is. And I love that you said about that you took a course. I did too. Not right out of the gate, but I'm like, I need to learn more. I need to sharpen my skills. I need to understand it. And I think taking courses are so important to really better
Oh,
understand. And you listed all the reasons why it's
yeah.
so important. So now you really put a lot of your energy on Instagram and LinkedIn. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn
Yeah.
and learn all about that and how we can do better at that. But why did you decide to go to LinkedIn? Why did that become one of your preferred platforms?
Yeah. So, giving a little context about my story at the beginning, when I was offering social media management services, which was mostly focused on Instagram and a little bit on LinkedIn, but most of my clients were looking for Instagram support. And same thing with social media coaching, they were wanting to learn Instagram. And as my client and my ideal client shifted, which was connecting with business owners and founders who had a team that I could come in and train, they were not on Instagram, or they had maybe a team member managing their Instagram. So I wasn't able to really connect with the key decision maker I needed to connect with. And that's when I realized I'm on the wrong platform for this specific service that I offer. I need to go to LinkedIn because that's where my ideal clients are.
Hmm.
And as I started to research even more about LinkedIn, I learned that I think the stat is there's over 1 billion users on LinkedIn, but only about 1% of them are actually creating content. And so that blew my mind about the potential on that platform for me to be seen, but then also how you can utilize the search fields to directly find the key person and the key decision maker you need to be speaking to way more effective and way easier on LinkedIn compared to Instagram. So I could go and find the email addresses or the actual profiles for people that I wanted to then start building a relationship with and connecting with and pitching my services to, or inviting them to learn more about who I am and how I can support them. So that's where that big shift came. And as I started to work with certain clients as well, I was like, actually, we need to start exploring LinkedIn for you. A lot of speakers and authors and
Yeah.
consultants. I'm like, that's where we need to be for your business and your platform. So that's really where the initial shift started for me.
So interesting. And I've got like, here's one thing I'm not a fan of LinkedIn about, but I am spending more time over there.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you had shared how you can look for the person that you want to connect with, which I think is great because you can't do that on Facebook, can't do it on Instagram, can't do it on TikTok, right? And once you find that, like, how do you nurture that relationship?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
because
Exactly.
I'm sure you have gotten the emails where it's like, "Oh, I wanna connect," and you do, and then you're like, "Here's my sales pitch." So
Oh,
how do you do it and make it authentic?
yes. And I agree. There are those businesses and brands out there. They really are on every platform because I'm sure you've
Yeah,
gotten on Instagram where they're
that's
like,
true. Valid point.
who you are. And so the biggest thing to remember is seeing truly LinkedIn, but any social media platform as if you were at a networking event and you don't just go and you walk up to someone the first time and you start pitching yourself. Like if you and I met at a networking event in person and I was like, hi, Deanna, I sell social media consulting. This is how I can help your business. You'd be like, whoa, girl.
That's so true.
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I
Back
don't even
off.
like you. And so I see the same approach with LinkedIn. So when I find a business owner who I am maybe, or a marketing manager, that's who I often like to target, or a founder, I will first see, are they active on LinkedIn? And I will start engaging and commenting on their content before I even send them a connection request or follow them. I have a spreadsheet where I put some, target leads in, and then I will be very intentional about going and engaging with them to get to know them, to show I'm supporting what they're doing, to learn more about their business, their struggles. And then depending on how that process goes, I'll decide when will I send them a connection request. So then if I do, I'll say something like, hey, I've been really enjoying the content I see on your feed. I'd love to have you showing up more on my LinkedIn home feed. I'd love us to connect. We're in a similar industry. It's great to be a part of X, Y, and Z. Like I'll kind of have a
Right.
script based on that person, and how I've been engaging with them. And then afterwards, I might see how that conversation is going in the DMs. And then I might offer, hey, can I support you in this way? Or I've had people be like, hey, I see that you do social media consulting. We're looking for some help with our social media. Can we chat? And I'm like, yes, we totally can. So the process, that's how it works for my business. I've worked with other business owners where their target audience is different. So the process is a little bit different. So for example, I have a past client who is a speaker. And for us, we made sure we were building up his visibility through showcasing him as a hospitality leadership consultant and expert. And he had some past clients who were, or past colleagues that he worked with years ago, see his content, and they reached out to him to be like, hey, we'd like to bring you in as a consultant into our company. So there's a lot of different strategies that can be implemented. Engagement is a big one, making sure you are engaging on the platform, but in a truly an authentic, genuine way.
Yeah. I love that. I think that approach really does feel more authentic. Even though it's intentional and there is a strategy behind it, you're still putting in the time to get to know who that person is before you
Yeah.
even reach out to them. And then it just feels more natural. So I love that example of what you're doing. So if I wanted to optimize my profile on LinkedIn, right, so that I'm trying to get high ticket leads,
Yeah.
what are some things I should be paying attention to?
Yeah. So I actually have a little bit of a framework that I called the 3P blueprint for growth on LinkedIn. And so the 3P stand for profile, posting, and prospecting. Because as business owners, we do need to prospect. Like, unless if you're not prospecting and you're not looking for leads, you have a very expensive hobby going on. Need to support
That's
us.
so true.
It's like, oh, I'm blunt, but it is true.
Yes, I love it.
So if we're looking at our profile, a couple of things you want to do to make sure it is optimized is making sure that I like to call it the 3-second test. If someone comes to your profile, do they know what it is that you do, what you offer, and if it's for them in 3 seconds or less? And this is really looking at the top half of your profile. So your banner, your profile picture, your professional headline, and even your featured section. So we need to be really thoughtful about who you're targeting, and does that visually showcase the type of clients you're trying to work with and wanting to attract? And does it also showcase it in the professional headline with keywords to help you get discovered by those ideal clients? And the reason I also say the visuals, so like your banner and your profile picture, is I do LinkedIn audits for clients. And I had a lady who was, or she is, a DEIB consultant, so diversity and inclusion consultant. And she was
Okay.
like, hey, Brittany, I'm trying to reach, like, I'm a 6-figure consultant. I really want to reach these bigger brands, and I'm trying to speak to the executives to bring me into their company. And when we looked at their visuals, I was like, you're not showcasing yourself as this 6-figure consultant. We need to make some changes here. So that those executives who come to your feed instantly are like, oh, this lady knows what she's talking about. And they subconsciously do that, right? It's not like they say that out loud. There's just this
Right.
feeling that they're like, oh, that person can help us. And our visuals was a big part of that. So really, when you're doing your profile checklist, looking at your banner, your profile picture, your professional headline, making sure it has keywords in there that speaks to your ideal client and helps you get discovered. And then your featured section is optimized as well. So that's a really quick checklist to start with the profile section.
That's a great checklist. What's the
Yeah.
biggest mistake that you see people make on LinkedIn? And it could
Yeah.
be with their profile or anything.
Yeah. And so sticking with the profile, the biggest mistake I see is they don't optimize their professional headline in a way that makes them look like a business owner and an expert. It almost sounds more like I'm an employee, or like, this is what I do, I help kind of statements. And it becomes this long run on sentence versus really speaking to the pain points and the desires of your ideal client. And oftentimes they also forget about the key words that can be included in your professional headline and how to add those strategically, because your professional headline can help you get found not only on LinkedIn, but also on Google. So if people are Googling and wanting to look up a diversity and inclusion speaker, I know a friend and a client who she is a speaker in that area. If you Google that, she comes up and her LinkedIn profile comes up, which is super cool.
That's so
So
cool.
it's really
Yeah.
powerful in that way. Yeah.
That's great. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I know I'm going to be updating my LinkedIn because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm probably like everything you say not to do is probably what my LinkedIn looks like right now. Which is okay, right? It's okay. But
Start there.
yeah.
Totally. Yes. Another super cool to check out on LinkedIn, there is something called your SSI score. Have you heard of that, or have you ever checked that out?
No, no, I have
Okay.
not.
It's called your social selling index. And what I love about this, and it's free for everyone, LinkedIn will tell you how you are doing on their platform. They actually give you guidance. And so you
Oh
can
my
look
gosh.
up social selling index LinkedIn. There's a button that says get my score, and it will rate you out of 104 key categories and let you know how you're doing with your profile presence, with the content you're creating, and who you're building connections with. And it says on there, they are looking at the quality of your connections, not the quantity. Like, and it gives you the guidance. I love it. So go check
Oh my
out your
gosh.
SSI score on LinkedIn, and it can give you
Am.
like advice on what changes you need to make. And if you're at 0, if you're at 2, if you're at 10, that's okay. It just means there's an opportunity for improvement and growth.
Oh my gosh, I'm definitely going to do that. I can't wait to go hop over there and just see because there will be an opportunity for growth. I have been spending more time over there lately, probably
Yeah.
the end of last year and then the beginning of this year. But I know I need to do better. I know I
Yeah.
need to get better. So I noticed on LinkedIn because there was a time that I was active on LinkedIn and then I stepped away from it. And then when I started to come back, I noticed there was a change. When I was there the first time, it was all business content and all the personal stuff was kind of like keep it on Facebook, right?
Mm.
Because even Instagram at that point was not really that big of a deal. It was like keep it on Facebook, and LinkedIn is all the professional. And then I come back and it's like, wait a minute, it's a mix of personal and also professional. So how can you build yourself as an authority on LinkedIn and share personal, share, like, what is that balance? How do
Yeah.
you do
Oh,
that?
I love that. So I also really love LinkedIn for this reason because I find when I open up the platform and go on LinkedIn, I am inspired by the content I see, and I'm not just filled with a feed of trends, like people doing all the same music with the
Thank
same
you.
kind of
I agree
reels
with
going
that.
on.
I so agree with that.
And so I actually feel like there's this inspiring moment here on LinkedIn. The way that you can be really strategic in including the personal part of your life on LinkedIn, which is really what people connect with, is by tying it back to your business in some way. So a really cool way to think about this is I've seen someone who was getting their kid ready for school and they showed a photo of their kid with their backpack on, but from like the back. And they were sharing the story about how they, as a busy entrepreneur, this is one of the reasons why they started their business was so that they could do these morning drop-offs into their school, drop-offs with their kid and pick them up at the end of the day. And they tied the concept back to their business. So they're not just throwing content out there for the sake of it. They're not just posting about their food or a really pretty picture of a walk they went on. The caption is always being tied back into their business in some way. So that's a really good way to think about, okay, how can I add the personal side of myself or my story or my journey, but still make it related to what I want to be seen as that authority in the platform or on the platform.
I
Yeah.
love that. I know I recently posted something about my dad on LinkedIn and I tied it to lessons in 2024 and it really got a lot of engagement. And the purpose really wasn't to get all that. I mean, of course I want all that engagement, right? But I
Yeah.
was a little bit still surprised of how much engagement and people that I did not know that I wasn't connected to
Yeah.
commenting on it, being able to relate to what I shared. So
Yeah.
I appreciate what you just said. It's like I think I did that without realizing I was doing that.
Yeah. The other really beautiful thing about LinkedIn is I feel I like to call it, it's like a low pressure content creation platform. So in the sense that your photo, it doesn't have to be the most beautiful, aesthetically pleasing photo. Like, of course, you still want it to be bright and clear. Like, we don't want to post something that's blurry and dark, but
Right.
like just a photo of you. Like, I posted a photo of Bryce, my partner, and I. We went hiking in the mountains, and I posted that photo. And then in the caption, I shared how for New Year's Eve, I noticed a lot of my friends and I are now at that season of life. We're staying in and going to bed at like 12:02 is the thing to do now. And we're okay with that. And I got so much engagement on that. Whereas that same photo, I was like, oh, it doesn't feel right going on Instagram. And I
Yeah.
noticed there was a moment where I was like, wow, I was allowing the side of Instagram hold me back from showing up and posting certain things where I feel like this release and it's a lot more fun to be able to do this low pressure style on LinkedIn and it works really well. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
I get
amazing with
that.
those
I
personal
feel that. I
stories.
do. I feel that. I feel what you're saying. So
Yeah.
you have a LinkedIn checklist that we can
Do.
snag from you, don't you?
Yes, I do. So if you are curious about exploring LinkedIn, but you might feel like you're not sure where to start, this checklist is going to help you out. It's going to be focused mostly on your profile and really going through some of the areas that you want to optimize or set up properly so that you feel really good showcasing your business and your brand there, while also making sure
That is awesome. And you're sharing that with us. So if you want the checklist, just go down to the show notes. If you're listening to this on the audio version, if you're on YouTube, just go down into the description. There's a link and grab your checklist because let's do some amazing things on LinkedIn this year. I know that that is one of my priorities is to be more intentional on LinkedIn. So this conversation was so helpful, Brittany. I can't even thank you enough for sharing so many great tips of I know that I can implement and I'm sure my listeners can too. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I'm going to snag your idea about the spreadsheet and intentionally connecting. I'm going to do that. So I'm going to let you know in 6 months how that's working. So expect an email from me, a follow up to let you know. No, go ahead. You're good. Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. Brittany, thank you so much for coming on today. It has been a pleasure speaking with you and learning so much. You're welcome. All right, everybody. We will catch you next time. We'll see ya. Are you there? Okay, good. Okay, good. I'm